You're watching the FARC Elite Series, powered by Smash Beer on OEN. Brought to you this week by Orphanol, the official fuel of FARC. Let's take a look at the highlights from the Bert's Used Lingerie 100, the feature race at the 7077 Speedway. And on the Marlisle pole would be Gravity Racing team owner Packer Carroll, entering this race because it's the closest that he's going to get to a home race this season. However, Jason Bates in the Smash Beer 2 quickly pounces on him and sweeps into the lead in turn 3. But we got trouble here on lap 1. Monica Rook turned around by Vincenzo Focusato. Rook and Ryan Matthews into the wall. Your points leader is upside down, and we've got a pile up in turn 3. Ryan Matthews started 9th and was caught completely by surprise, and he does a couple of rolls as several cars pile in. Matthews is going to drive that car away, but the 61 would be done for the day. Ben Atkins, Alex Witt, and Leslie Riggs were also taken out in this melee. Jason Bates leads on the restart. Libby Bell, car 16, right behind him. Kevin Monroe in 3rd. However, Nanami Miura's engine gives up on her, coming to take the green flag. The Kurt Walker 39 team has had trouble with that car all weekend. Miura was fortunate to make it into the feature, but it didn't last for much longer. On the restart, Kevin Monroe grabs the lead from Jason Bates. Michael Madrigal's got a problem. He spins the pie car in turn 3, and then he tries to make a move for the pit lane right in front of the race leader, collecting Kevin Monroe. Both of them go into the wall. Madrigal was not going to make it into the pit lane from there, and that completely hopeless maneuver is going to take himself and his former team owner out. Monroe went over to Madrigal's pit box and confronted his crew chief. Coming to the restart, Bixby Foot's engine lets go on him. He comes to a stop on the track and draws the Vicker Collision and Glass caution yet again. Jason Bates did get the lead back after Monroe was taken out, but here comes Dan Leckliter sweeping around the 2 car, and the Albuquerque winner now leads this race 3 wide for 3rd, behind Jason Bates with Zach Webster, Libby Bell, and Rachel Rainsford. Libby Bell came into this weekend 3rd in the championship, and with points leader Ryan Matthews being taken out on lap 1, Bell now has to focus on beating Jim Hayes in that purple 77 for Tom Delgado Racing. Hayes currently 8th, running right behind Zachary Zins. Vincenzo Focusato turned into the wall by Tanner Clayson, heading into turn 1, and Focusato goes rolling as he hits that dirt banking. A bit of karmic retribution for Focusato after causing that pile up on lap 1. Jason Bates gets by Dan Leckliter to take the lead back with a little bit of help from the lapped car of Frank Azure. Azure was in that first lap pileup, and he's been in and out of the pit lane a few times. And now rookie Reed Bullitt comes after Jason Bates for the lead. Bullitt continuing to show why he's on top of the Rookie of the Year standings. He's been very fast all season, and I'm kind of surprised he hasn't won a race already. Brenda Riggs and Taylor Brillin for M&J Racing, the 2 sprint winners yesterday, are making a charge through the field. Dan Leckliter runs up into no man's land, and he will start losing positions rapidly. Jason Bates does the same thing, hops into the air a little bit as he hits that bump, and then he hits the wall in turn 3 and starts rolling violently down turn 3. A couple of cars did clip him, but fortunately, everybody else avoids him. This isn't the first violent crash that Jason Bates has had this season. He got smacked around in a qualifier for the Smash Beer 500. Fortunately, he would climb out of that car. Reed Bullitt loses the lead to Jim Hayes after the restart. Taylor Brillin and Rachel Rainsford not making life easy for him as he tries to make his way back onto the racing line. Zach Webster battling Brenda Riggs for 2nd place. Webster finished 2nd to Brenda Riggs in the sprint yesterday, tying his best career finish. Brenda Riggs would then start to lose positions as she got shuffled out of the racing line. There you see her behind Dan Leckliter, who's starting to make some moves to the front again. Scott Dollitz and Richard Scott doing battle right now. These are 2 people who we haven't seen at the front too often this season. Dan Leckliter back up to 3rd place, but something breaks on Rachel Rainsford's car, and she goes for a spin. She's sitting right in the middle of the racing line in turn 4. Libby Bell clips her, but fortunately, nobody else hits her. Rainsford would get a push back to the pits and would rejoin the race a couple laps down. Frank Azure coming to a stop with more problems on that 37 car. More frustration for Azure this week after he was passed for the win by Taylor Brillin in his sprint. Dan Leckliter finds himself back in the lead on the restart. Jim Hayes and Ashley Tucker giving chase, but Richard Scott turns Scott Dollitz onto the apron. Dollitz back up onto the track, almost takes out Ashley Tucker, but he goes for a roll after hitting the wall. These two had been racing each other for a while, but I didn't see anything happen that would indicate that Richard Scott was frustrated with Scott Dalitz, as we see Libby Bell hit the wall. She got up into no man's land off of turn 2 and couldn't quite get the car back onto the track. Ashley Tucker took the lead from Dan Lechlater. Lechlater now up into no man's land, makes a bit of contact with Nick Howard in the 56. Lechlater still very wide up into the marbles, and he smashes into the tire wall in turn 4. It was shaping up to be a good day for Dan Lechlater, but obviously things changed very quickly. And things are changing very quickly for Zach Webster, as his engine is going to expire under this caution. I can't say I'm surprised. Zach Webster has been plagued with these kinds of problems all season. Ashley Tucker tries to hold off a charge from Jim Hayes, but here comes Packer Carroll diving to the inside for the race lead. And as Tucker loses third to Jim Hayes, you see quite a few people up towards the front that we haven't seen all day. Zachary Sins, Leland Rogers, and Mo Lester, although Mo Lester runs up into no man's land and loses several positions, making a bit of contact with Libby Bell in the 16, coming back onto the track, and now he runs wide and smashes into the tire wall out of turn 4. Tanner Clayson got a small piece of that as well, but obviously Mo Lester, the big loser in that situation. Jim Hayes into the back of Packer Carroll after the restart. Hayes back up across the track into Rachel Rainsford, taking her into the wall, and Rachel Rainsford goes upside down. So Jim Hayes tries to take out Packer Carroll, ends up taking out his teammate instead. Carroll led on the restart, but he quickly gets shuffled out of line by Reed Bullitt and Zachary Zins. Brenda Riggs on the inside of the lapped car of Tommy Ashby. Jim Hayes continues his reign of destruction, turning Libby Bell into the wall. Bell and Richard Scott up and into the dirt in turn 1. Libby Bell is a lap down and has been having some trouble keeping pace in that 16 car. Reed Bullitt's lead now padded by the lapped cars of Tommy Ashby and Frank Azure. Jim Hayes is still rampaging around this track. He's into the back of Neil Miller, taking both cars into the inside wall. Miller shoots back up into Packer Carroll. Carroll rides the wall as Neil Miller gets hit by Luke Ocean in the 798. Monica Rook collected as well. Is Jim Hayes trying to win this race or stop everyone else from finishing? He's got the biggest advantage with most of his points rivals falling by the wayside, so I'm not sure why he's putting himself in these situations. Anyway, Reed Bullitt, coming to 10 laps to go, gets shuffled out of line by Brenda Riggs and Ashley Tucker, but Taylor Brilling gets into the back of John Hawks and takes herself and several other cars into the wall, including Jim Hayes. So I'm sure the rest of the field is going to be breathing a little bit easier. Well, except for Brenda Riggs, whose engine expires under this caution. Both of the sprint winners collapsing immensely in these final 10 laps. Ashley Tucker, with 5 to go, now leads the lapped car of Frank Azure in front of her, but Libby Bell blows up and comes to a stop on the track. The second engine failure for a Sergio Power car today. Ashley Tucker leads Reed Bullitt, coming back to the caution. There are only 3 laps left now, and they're not going to be able to get Libby Bell's car off the track in time for a restart. So we will now go to a green-white checkered here at the Bert's Used Lingerie 100. 11 cars taking the restart. Ashley Tucker and Reed Bullitt lead. Monica Rook and Tommy Ashby were put back on the lead lap, and they will be joining the field for the restart. Ashley Tucker pulls ahead of Reed Bullitt as Zachary Zins in the 99 comes through to second and gives chase. Tucker trying to win her first race of the year. In fact, Monica Rook is the only driver in the starting field who has a win this season. Reed Bullitt losing positions rapidly as he's stuck on the outside. In the meantime, Ashley Tucker has pulled on Zachary Zins, and it's smooth sailing for Ashley Tucker as she takes her first win of the year. The second for Bjorn Green Racing this season, as Tucker's husband Tom Delgado won a race at Lake Afton after Tucker was injured at New York. Zachary Zins, Richard Scott, John Hawks, and Tanner Clayson made up the rest of the top 5, as Ryan Matthews continues to hold the points lead, leaving the 70-77 Speedway, but Jim Hayes now trails only by 20 points. And I understand that Race Control had a little chat with Jim Hayes after his rampage. I know that the officials have been very lax on penalties this season. That could change. Libby Bell sits third, 106 points back. Bell, even though she blew her engine, she still finished 14th with the attrition rate in today's race. So with that, along with making the feature period, it wasn't a complete disaster for the 16 team. Laura Cyrus failed to make the feature once again, and so she continues to fall through the standings. She certainly looked to be one of the top title contenders until she was injured at New York, and Motor Assault's campaign has been a complete disaster ever since. And now let's have a look at the Rookie of the Year battle. No surprise, Ray Bullitt still leads, and he has widened his gap over Vincenzo Focusato slightly. Frank Azure has jumped all the way up to third with an average finish of 14.9. He finished second and 12th in his races this weekend. Tanner Clayson picked up a spot this weekend. Neil Miller remains in 13th. He did have a good run going in the feature, but he got wrecked by Jim Hayes, and Stacy St. Martin was looking to have a good run in her sprint until she blew up, and so she lost a couple of spots. Tommy Ashby has jumped up to 12th with his 2 top 10 finishes this weekend, and Maury Holter and Ryan Barrett still round out the top 20. Next week, we head to the Talladega Superspeedway for the Empire Drive the Dream Challenge. Empire Rent-A-Car will be backing 6 entries for the 6 lucky winners of the Drive the Dream sweepstakes, ordinary civilians who have never set foot inside a race car.